means to wear into the AM clothes. And busted tees, they do a slightly different version. It's just like a paragraph of text saying like why people wear their stuff, unique designs, that sort of thing. But that's another thing you can do to improve conversion rate. Now we're going to go into the add to cart, and we're just going to skip over the home page because all of our traffic goes to the collection pages, but you can review that at your own speed. So on collection pages, we want to put our best sellers first. This gets it into an important concept. The ordering of our primary collection, where we're driving all the traffic to, is one of the biggest things we can do to improve our conversion rate. And so the way that we want to sort or filter this collection, we want to sort by best selling predominantly. But in the beginning, especially, you're not going to have enough data for it to sort off of, because it sorts off of, I want to say it's rolling 60-day window of top selling products. And in the beginning, you're going to have like no sales, if barely a few. And that's not really enough for it to sort the whole collection off of. So what we do is we sort by best selling, and then we do by featured. And you're doing this in the Shopify backend. So you go to the collection, you do sort by best selling, and then you switch it to sort by manual. And then you are clicking and dragging up the designs that are driving the most traffic. Like for example, if I turn on my dynamic catalog and I see that this "Don't Touch Me" cactus or "Ouch" t-shirt is driving cheap link clicks, then I would go into Shopify, I would go to products, then collections, I'd find this collection, make sure it's sorted by manual, then I would find this design and I would drag it up towards the top. And I normally try to drop it like in the 5th through 10th spot. I normally try not to throw off the top 4, assuming that they're based on some kind of data and it's not, at the very beginning. But the top 4 are the ones that I normally try to leave consistent until I have strong enough data showing that I should, bump them out of the way. The reason I leave the front 4 is that every time we make a change to the landing page, that's going to throw off conversion rate, but that's not something to really concern yourself with when your conversion rate has yet to become optimal. There's a big difference when you're optimizing a store from a 3% conversion rate versus a 1% conversion rate. When you're at a 1% level, you just want to be changing everything. You want to be testing a ton of different stuff. You're not really worried about rocking the boat because the boat is sinking. Not to use a bad metaphor, but like you're in a beautiful spot where you don't have to worry about breaking anything because there's nothing to break yet. Whereas when you're at a 3, it's almost like when you're the winning team in a game, and even though you're winning, you feel the risk of losing more than the other team because you're afraid of losing the top spot, and the other team just feels hungry and they're coming to get it. So when you're at a 3% conversion rate, you are the winning team. So you're afraid of rocking the boat and throwing off what's already working. So that's where the leaving the top 4 designs recommendation comes from. But we want to put our best sellers towards the top. Make sure the designs that are driving the traffic are featured on the first page. And I see this a lot where people will have traffic being driven by a product, but then their conversion rate's low and they're like, I've made all the changes on the site, and then I preview the ad in their ad account, I click on the ad, then I land on the landing page and that product is nowhere to be seen. So, and I've done that a ton of times too. So it's a pretty silly mistake every time that I've made it. It's very easy to correct. That's the thing with most of these conversion rate changes, is that we're going through this whole list. In all honesty, this whole list will probably take you like 2 to 3 hours max to do. And that's just how it is with conversion rate. With lowering the cost per link click, it comes down to putting in a lot of time to come up with something good. And, there's still a lot of variability in that. Whereas with conversion rate, the time is really invested in learning what are the things that I should change. It's much less time intensive on the actual implementation side of things. So keep it clean, use a grid layout that highlights visuals. For example, your design should be the star, not a busy background. That gets into the mock-up. Make sorting useful. Allow customers to sort collections by what matters. So that's, best-selling, alphabetical, featured. Make sure the best-selling color product is set as a primary photo. This is another important one. So the color that is showing up here on the product page or on the collection page of the product, we're able to change this. So we're able to change this to be any color we want, and we want to make sure that we set it to be the top selling color. And so if the top selling color for this cactus summer t-shirt design is blue, I would want to change this off of the charcoal and I would want to make it blue. Now there's nuance to it, because if all my top sellers are just blue, I wouldn't want a whole collection of blue, because that's another piece we try to optimize for, is variety, so that it's aesthetically interesting to be scrolling through the page looking at the designs. And if it's just all white shirts or all black shirts, that's pretty bland. So we want to add some variety, but by and large we want to lead with the best selling color as the primary image. Then a second piece that we're about to get through in one of these. Okay, also make sure that color is shown when they click on the product page. If not, you need to reorder the product's variants from the product page. So what this means is, like this shirt, let's say the blue was the best selling color, and I clicked on this before and saw this is a perfect example. So when I click on this product, if I'm a customer, I'm expecting to see a blue shirt. When I click on it, it goes to charcoal. It's kind of weird. Obviously, it's not a big deal for me to switch back to royal, but it doesn't matter. The name of the game with conversion rate optimization is removing as many steps as possible. It should be as seamless as we can possibly make it. The most seamless interaction would be if somebody looks at a design, they express mental interest in it, and then they automatically place an order. Like, that would be the perfect shopping experience. We'll probably get there someday, but in the meantime, our goal is to get us as close to that as possible. And so every little point of friction, everything like that, like me expecting to see a blue shirt and then seeing a charcoal, has a massive impact on conversion rate, especially when it is compounded with lots of little things like that. Because if you think about a professional site that you would feel confident in shopping from, and people are very, very good at people have exceptional BS radars nowadays. So every little thing like that, even if they're not able to pay a lip service to why it may cause them to lose trust in your site, it absolutely does. And so every little thing like that, every little misstep adds up to a poor user experience. But fortunately, we're going through this list to make sure that that doesn't happen. So the way that we fix this is by going into products, going to that product's page in the back end, and then reordering the variants so that instead of the charcoal product being at the top, we put the royal one at the top. So the point is that whatever main product image is showing, that should also be the top variant being shown. Then next, use data to decide your layouts. So your top performing ads or designs with highest ROAS should always take center stage on the collection pages. Prioritize niche research. Group designs by what resonates with your target audience. So the funniest example of this is, we wouldn't want to see if somebody clicked on the whimsical line art flowers, whimsically simple line art flowers. We would not want them to land on this page and see that. That would be good if it's at the top, showing the best selling color, checking a lot of the boxes. But then if the products surrounding it are, a dark adult humor, like sarcastic adult humor, that'd be pretty off-putting. And somebody who is seeing that design and they're about to click it and they're like, what, oh my God. And they're probably not going to buy. And obviously there's inverses of that. Like if somebody clicked on a dark, sarcastic humor shirt and they see that they're cracking up, doing their evil laugh to themselves. And then they're like, what the simple flower? Oh, I thought this was a fun site. And then they leave. So there's no exact science, like this has to be the messaging. The important thing is that it's congruent with what your customer is expecting based on what they clicked on in the ad. So we actually spend a lot of time fixating on the order and the colors and the products that we're showing on each product page or collection page. I'm sorry. Next, test everything. Use A/B testing on badges, product orders, and hover effects to see what drives the most clicks. So there's A/B testing software. Honestly, I've used it once, and that was just for pricing split tests. As everything else, with the amount of traffic we're driving, it's pretty low stakes to just keep track of what your conversion rate was using the direct-to-consumer, the D2C marketing stat spreadsheet, and then make a change. So you mark it on the spreadsheet, like reordered collection in the notes column, and then you just keep running ads and then see what the performance is after you made the change. And that little very simple thing took us years to start doing. I can't tell you how many times we made a change on the site to run a test, and then we were left going back through iMessages to try to find what date did we update the cart? And it's well, we talked about it on the 3rd, but then on the 5th conversion rate went up. So was it? So just simply tracking it. And it's just your taxes. It should be very, very simple as long as it's done consistently and well over time, so it doesn't pile up to a big thing. But yeah, so staying organized. The next, simple product titles. Don't describe the entire design in the title. I see this one a lot, and some of them are pretty funny. We had some pretty funny ones on Yoga Stay, but the way to do this wrong would be making it, I'm trying to find one. I think we corrected all these, but doing here, like a bad example would be Forget Me Not blue watercolor t-shirt. Here Comes the Sun retro circular design t-shirt. Watering can watercolor t-shirt. Like, way too wordy. The best titles are 1 to 3 words max. 1 to 2 plus the word t-shirt, and making sure that t-shirt is spelled the same. You can either do T-E-E, or T-shirt, but don't do both. Just make it consistent. Again, you want to build as much credibility as possible and seem as professional as possible. So 2 to 3 word titles. So a bad one would be Lincoln Ford Theater, 1 out of 5 stars, would not recommend t-shirt. Good was Lincoln 5-star t-shirt. Next, another reminder, optimize mobile over desktop. Then on mobile, we want to have 2 columns, not 1 column. So we want it to be side by side like this. And this is also corroborated by, if you look at Busted Tees, like what do they do? How many products do they do side by side? There. How many does Wicked Clothes do? All right, so they just do 1. It's also interesting that they show just the design and not the mock-up. Okay, so that's interesting. They just do 1. What does Into the AM do? Yeah, they do side by side. So there's 3 for side by side, 1 for vertical. And the one that's vertical, something else to keep in mind is that they've been around since 2010. And so when you've been around for over a decade, almost a decade and a half, you normally are able to get away with more things. But that's how I really judge. If I'm ever not sure about a change that I'm going to make, I just go down the list. I just look at other sites and I would probably look at like 10, not just the handful that we're doing, but I would look at like 10 sites. And then by the end, it's a pretty easy way to come to a relatively conclusive answer. Just look down the row. And if I'm trying to decide, should I do side by side or stack on top 1 at a time? Just look at 10 different sites. And if 7 of them have side by side and 3 of them have 1 by 1, then I go with the side by side, just majority rules. And that's where the site that we have now, that it comes from doing that test and then making those changes and then seeing what the results are. Next, collection header should be short and on brand. So it should be like spring t-shirts, ! 1 emoji max, should only take up 1 line max. And like yoga t-shirt sale, history tees sale. So something just short, simple, and it should reinforce what the person was expecting to see when they clicked on your ad. Next, square product images, not vertical. So we want them to be like this, not vertical. Make sure the collection title only takes up 1 line on mobile. Make sure the logo and the header is not pushing down the collection page. So we did this in the Shopify setup together, but see how when we scroll up, it's a nice horizontal logo. There's no like extra padding, and you will definitely have this if you did a square logo, because it'll have the extra white space above and below, and Shopify is just trying to show the whole image. So you'll end up with a top nav bar that comes down to like here. And then when people scroll back up, it covers like down to here on their screen. It's a pretty bad experience. That's one of the most subtle or nefarious impactors I see on beginner stores, is little stuff like that. And a lot of that stuff can be caught just by obsessing over loading your site, looking at it, and then going back and forth to these sites. And I want to pause here to emphasize this point. You can learn so much if you are ever struggling with your conversion rate just by obsessing, doing this constantly. Because just like I just looked at the Yoga Stay mockup for the 10,000th time and just noticed something new that I'd never seen before in 4 or 5 years, like you will have that same experience looking at your own site. And look at your site and go, okay, I need to increase my add to cart ratio. I know that's either collection page or my product page. So let me go through all of the collection pages of Busted Tees. What do I notice? So here, okay, they just have the title. They don't actually have the price. That's interesting. I have the price. They outline the t-shirts, but then not behind the font. That's interesting. They have the star reviews. Now let's see what Wicked Clothes is doing. So they do have the price. They also have the star reviews. Let's see what Into the AM does. They also have the price. They summarize all the reviews from all their products. They do like square images with no background. And then just from that, and we do that for 5 or 6 other sites, I would come away with at least 4 or 5 things that I could test doing differently on my collection page. Next, reorder the collection to show complementary products near each other. We just talked about that one. Drive traffic to one main collection and then create others as your store grows. But even now, at 1 million plus, 90+% of our traffic goes to a single like bestsellers collection. And that collection now has like 700 some designs in it. Next, make sure you don't have an email teaser or any floating icons. So this is on here to show that you don't want to have this. So this is after somebody comes to our site, triggers the Klaviyo pop-up, and then they close it. This is a setting you're able to turn off, but they have it on by default. The reason this is important is putting yourself in the mind of a shopper as they're scrolling, and in reality, their phone is probably like up to here. So about the bottom 10-15% of their screen is being blocked by this little present. As I'm scrolling down, where do my eyes go? They go to the bottom to see what's coming up. And what's blocking that is this little freaking present thing, which that's bad, number one. But the reason it's even worse is when I go to add to cart, what's blocking the checkout button. And it was actually funny. I noticed that Into the AM, surprisingly, has this. When I'm scrolling down, trigger it. A little 70% thing went away. Let's see if Busted has it. Nope, they have it covered so it doesn't pop up. But Into the AM did have this 70% thing. It's not showing up at all anymore. There it is. See that 70% thing? If I click add to cart, see that? How it's covering it? That's really bad. Because if I'm a customer, I'm trying to check out, I might be clicking that button and then hitting this pop-up, and then wow, then I have to, so I have to be able to click that X and then click checkout. So again, doesn't seem like a huge deal, but every little thing adds up. So long story short, just turn that off in your Klaviyo. Set collection descriptions to be one sentence that builds trust with the shopper. So this one sentence at the top. So this 30-day money-back guarantee with the star. Honestly, I'm not really a big fan of the star, but the importance of this one line is that if you picture when somebody is loading, and this will help put things in perspective, so really listen to this. When somebody is loading your site on mobile, the top 3/4 of their phone is taken up by this. Top 3/4 of their phone is your free shipping bar, your nav bar, your product, your collection title, and then your collection description. So these things, while they may seem small, have really big impacts because every single person who lands on your site and ends up ultimately buying is going to form their first impressions of your site based on what they see here. So we want this collection description to be short, very tactful, and build trust and credibility with the customer. And honestly, it's better if, like, here's some examples. Say like star, 100 plus t-shirts sold, USA owns small business, or just nothing. And if you can't think of anything, which ChatGPT can definitely help you with that, but if you can't think of something that's short, succinct, and builds credibility and doesn't look tacky, then it's honestly better to just put nothing there. And again, with this thing, just like anything, if you're going to be adding it, what you should be doing is marking it on your stats spreadsheet when you're making the change, and then tracking what was the performance before versus after. And that's where it helps having more traffic. It's another reason why we do cost per link click first, is if we have 10 sessions going to the site, very hard to tell if it's statistically significant or not, versus if we have 1,000 sessions and we're able to see after we sent 1,000 new sessions how many more people added to cart, then we're able to say pretty conclusively whether if we should leave this collection description as, the updated version, or if we should be switching it back. And finally, just a reminder that your collection page impacts your add to cart rate, not reach checkout. Then on the product pages, So on this page here, which impacts add to cart rate, we want to have a color isolated add to cart, which is like this. Notice how this color green, it appears there and nowhere else on the site. Wicked close is just black, which they have lots of black in other places, but into the AM, they do the black rounded one where it just stands out and it's very clear that this is the button that they want you to click. Something else I like that they do is they have the scrolling add to cart. That's a good thing to add on. I also like how they don't have any sizes pre-selected. They make you select it, and if you don't select one, then it gives you like a little error message. Like that. Then something you can experiment with is these dynamic checkout buttons. So, and dynamic checkout buttons are these right here, and this is something you enable in your Shopify settings. But basically what this does is if their browser detects that they have a PayPal account or a ShopPay account or Apple Pay, it will show that logo there and give them the option to quick checkout using that payment method. This is a double-edged sword because yes, it can increase conversion rate because it's a brand that they trust, a logo that they trust and they've shopped with before, and two, it takes them directly to checkout, but which leads to a faster experience because it already has their stuff, their information preloaded. But the double-edged sword piece of it is that when it takes them directly to checkout, it's just doing that with the one product in their cart. And our goal is to get people to add 1 to 2 like 1.7 to 2 products to cart. So our average order value is $45 to $50. So double-edged sword, if you're trying to optimize conversion rate, it can be a good thing to add. But also something else that I just noticed is that busted tees, they don't have it. Into the AM, they don't have it. And wicked close, they don't have it. So honestly right there, I would just turn it off. Just learn something new, just recording this. And something else I want to point out that they all do well is that the amount of space from except for busted tees, I don't think they do this that well. I think the order that I would trust these or judge these off of is into the AM, then wicked close, and then busted. Because what I was going to say that they do well is the amount of space between the bottom of the product image to the add to cart button is so minimal. Like, look at how condensed all this information is. Like wicked close, the amount of space from here to there is minimal because they're minimizing the amount of time or the amount of scrolling that people have to do to get to the button that they want them to click. Busted does a pretty good job of this. I think they could do it with getting rid of the quantity selector and putting these checkboxes underneath the add to cart instead, but I mean overall they're doing pretty well. But yeah, so that's something you can experiment with taking off. Like this theme does a pretty good job. I think if it had just one line of colors, that'd be even better. And if the sizes fit on one line, yeah, kind of like this, which I think we could definitely make it fit like that. There's even just that slight difference, taking up one less line here, that gets rid of all this dead space. Then do we really need, a whole extra line of colors? Probably not. So if we take that out, we take this out, then our add to cart button is loading up here versus way down here. Then trust seals below the CTA button. That's these right here. Busted does this. They put them further down. They look pretty good. Wicked close. Yeah, they just have, social proof and trust everywhere. They don't actually have trust seals though. But into the AM definitely does. Yeah. Well, that's like product seals. But then down here they have the trust seals. Clear product images. Experiment with adding additional product images of lifestyle shots, other mock-ups. And the way that I prioritize each one of these changes is I think about the amount of effort that it'll take. Like trust seals below CTA buttons, way simpler and faster to put into place than adding product images or lifestyle shots to every product page. Same thing with color isolated. That's like the quickest. Then trust seals. Adding product images or lifestyle images is like this. How they have the person and then the video of the person wearing it. Also remember that product page impacts our add to cart rate, then not reach checkout, and we should have at least 2 layers of recommended products. So this is like your best sellers, which we have this. We have customers also bought. We have you might also like. And this is something that people get confused when, or they ask about a lot when it comes to, having a single collection that has several hundred products. They look at the collection page and they're like, do you really think anybody's ever going to, scroll to page, 17, like 7 to see your products? And the answer is no, we're not expecting that. What we are banking on and expecting is, or what we have faith in, and what's proven to be true, is that Shopify's algorithm, the product recommendation algorithm, gets very good, especially as you're driving more traffic. It learns what products, people who viewed this product, what other products are most interested in, and it starts to recommend them here. So that's why we're able to drive traffic to just a single collection that has hundreds of products, because once people click on the one design that they're most interested in, Shopify is very good at showing them other products, and it pulls from the entire collection in order to populate these. And if we look into the AM, they have a bunch of recommended. These keep selling out. They come up with clever terms for it. Take another look. I also that's a subtle thing to notice, that these keep selling out. This is just showing them like this, and it shows 6. So maybe we could add another row. And then down here, take another look. These are the ones that I was looking at before, and it does these horizontal. So that's a subtle, interesting difference. And I'm pointing these things out, if it's not already clear, I'm pointing these things out as evidence that it's not one size fits all, and there's lots of different ways and ideas that you could test. And Busted Tees, very surprisingly, doesn't have any. No, they don't. It's interesting. Wicked Close. Yeah, you might also I think product recommendations is a pretty much a no-brainer. Variants made simple, let customers easily choose size, color, and remind them if they forget. The remind them if they forget is the thing that Into the AM does that I really like. Localized pricing, don't have to worry about that until you go international. Then shipping clarity. Highlight delivery times, cost, or free shipping perks near the CTA. So your shipping speed, which we haven't done this. Right now we don't dynamically display it anywhere. We just, in our shipping policy, say average order ships out in 1 to 2 business days. But we could, especially using Monster Digital and Printify, they normally ship out the next day. And so we could add in estimated delivery 4 to 5 business days from, whatever the current date is. That would be something interesting to try. Then feedback after adding to cart, confirm with a clear message, like item added, and prompt next steps to go to cart. So this is when somebody's on the product page, they click add to cart, and it's very prominent and obvious that, it's now in the cart. It's also displayed up here, the 3 dots. Upsells and bundles. We honestly haven't done a whole lot with this. This doesn't really help conversion rate. It just helps average order value. So honestly, it should be. All right, whoops. All right, scarcity triggers. Use phrases like limited edition, only few left to drive urgency. So that would be something you could try in the collection description, saying limited edition collection or limited time only. Especially if you're doing seasonal designs, you could say that very legitimately. Then highlight freebies or donations, mention any charity tie-ins. So Wicked Close does a good example of this. With your help, we've been able to donate $150,000 to important causes. So that builds a lot of brand equity and reputation, and just again, people are, aside from it feeling good and being good for society and all of that, people are constantly evaluating when they're landing on a site for the first time whether they trust you or not. And so charity tie-ins is a great way to show that we're more than just t-shirt sellers. We're actually building a brand and we believe in something. And for a lot of people, showing that you give back is a great way to prove that. Then product descriptions, easy to read. Use short paragraphs and bullet points to highlight key features. I love showing these different examples. So to demonstrate the point that there's different ways to do this. What we've seen the most success with and what we do is just like this. Just simple 4 or 5 bullet points, and it's nested within the description. Similar but different version of that is what Wicked Close does. They do 5 bullet points, super simple, hits on the sizing, the material, if it's pre-shrunk or not, and then it's not nested, meaning they don't have to click a button. So that's an interesting difference to note. Also, I love this social proof that they have there. 1.4 million shirts sold since 2010. That is insane. So really good site to be looking at. And then Into the AM does a slightly different version of that. So we had the 5 bullet points nested version, 5 bullet points separate. Now we have Busted Tees, who does nested but preset to be expanded, meaning that when I land on this page, I'm not seeing it like this, where it's condensed. I see it open. And the description, they have the product features down here, but they have like 3 to 4 paragraphs just talking about their graphic tees. Like this first 2 paragraphs are, or first 3 paragraphs are about the design specifically. And then the last paragraph is about, Into the AM and graphic tees in general. So, and then their materials and care, that's kind of bad. That would jump me down. But yeah, so different versions for the description. And then Busted Tees does long form description, pre-open, then you're able to switch between these. So again, different versions of the same thing. What I think would be interesting to test is doing 1 to 2 paragraphs talking about the design and like what's unique about it and what people might like about it. ChatGPT is phenomenal for this. And test adding those into the product description, and then maybe test taking these bullet points and putting them above, and then having this nested description be the multiple paragraphs describing the design. That would be an interesting thing to try out. I apologize for the raspy voice. I'm losing my voice after all the recording. The next, focus on the benefits, write descriptions that explain how the product improves the customer's life, like stay cozy, stylish in the winter. Add FAQs. So the FAQs are sizing, material, if it's pre-shrunk, if it runs true to size, shipping and return policies. Those are the big ones. So as long as you're answering those in one form or fashion, it doesn't have to be a dedicated FAQ section at the bottom, but just make sure you're hitting those big questions. Explain the design story. That would be like the 1 to 2 paragraphs talking about the design. Mobile optimization is everything. And being transparent, shipping times, returns, and any fees should be clear near the CTA. Don't leave room for surprises. Like here, how we say shipping calculated at checkout lets people know that it's not, it's not like free shipping. So when they get to the checkout page, they're not getting surprised. And the way you would be able to tell if people are getting surprised is if you have a high add to cart rate, high reach checkout, and then a big drop off at your sessions converted. That tells you that something is going wrong at the checkout page. Next, initiate checkout. So this is the cool thing. As we're going further down the funnel, the number of variables are shrinking. So we just talked about how to increase the add to cart rate, which is how do we get people to click this button right here? And 90% of it comes down to just making really good designs and really good mockups and then making it super simple. But then once somebody has done that, they've clicked add to cart, how do we get them to click this checkout button here? Big step 1 is just removing anything that's covering it. And I laugh about it, but please double check, look at your own site, obsess over looking at your site on mobile, like 10, 15 times a day, just seeing what you can find. Send it to your friends and family, see if you have banner blindness, you're not, noticing something anymore after seeing it so many times. But the question we're answering now is how do we get people to click this checkout button? So we want a clean, simple design, keep the cart page minimal, clutter-free, and easy to navigate. Focus on clarity. We want to mobile optimize this as well. Ensure the cart is fully functional on mobile, sticky CTAs, and large tappable elements. No obstructions. We just talked about this one. Dynamic updates. Allow customers to update the quantities or remove items like these right here. Ensure that items remain in the cart when customers return, reducing friction for repeat buyers. Shopify does this natively, so we don't have to worry about that. Trust icons. Add secure checkout badges near the CTA to reassure customers. This is one that I'm interested in seeing what the other sites do. So let's take a look. So Busted Tees, when we add to cart. Yeah, so no trust seals. They do have frequently bought together. This would help with the add to cart, or not the add to cart, the reach. Nope. Help with the average order value. Now Wicked, no trust seals. Into the AM. Nope, besides Klarna, nothing. Then shipping details clearly display estimated delivery dates. Ships next business day. and then an asterisk, but they don't tell you what the asterisk means. That's interesting. What did Wicked Close do? Now it doesn't show an estimate. And Busted also doesn't show an estimate. I personally would like to show an estimate. We just don't have that right now. Transparency shows subtitles, estimated taxes, and total savings prominently near the checkout button. Then threshold awareness, highlight how close customers are to free shipping or perks. So that's like Busted has this at the top. And this one does help with reach checkout, because once somebody sees like, oh, I received a free gift or whatever it is, you almost feel dumb not to click the checkout button and either claim the free gift or the savings that you've earned, quote unquote. And while we're talking about all these things, there are apps and plugins that you can add on that will adjust your reach checkout and like your cart experience in general, and they're all promise to increase your conversion rate. Just really, really important. I saw this happen to several students in the community. Really important that when you install it, you verify that for yourself, and you watch, like anytime you make a change, you should be watching like a hawk, obsessing over what happened to my conversion rate after I added this. And not just the overall conversion rate, but what step in the funnel did this specifically impact? And then watch what happens to that. So for example, this checkout app or this cart app, which I think they might be using, I think Wicked Close might be using it too. I'm blanking on the name, but once you install that, you want to be watching like a hawk to see what happened to my reach checkout rate. Because I know in this case that it's impacting reach checkout, because nobody's seeing the cart app unless you change like the button or something. Nobody's seeing the cart app out here, so it can't be impacting the add to cart rate. So if I see add to cart rate went up after I installed the app, I know that's great, but it's not because of that app. Then urgency triggers use phrases like your cart is reserved for 10 minutes or order now for same day shipping. Payment options, we talked about that. Klarna, these are just options. I'm not like each one of these things, especially the ones that are like payment option based. These are things that are good to have, but it is not going to be the silver bullet that fixes your conversion rate. So again, prioritize these based off of the amount of effort and time that it will take you to accomplish them, and just knock them out in that order, and then track your conversion rate to see at what point you can stop. Because I can tell you that on our 0 to 7 figure store, we don't have Klarna or Afterpay. We don't have the your cart reserved for 10 minutes. We don't have this free shipping threshold thing. We don't have a bunch of these. They're just good things to have, but it's entirely possible to have a high converting site without some of these. Then you can test different free shipping thresholds, adjust thresholds based on customer data, but keep them realistic and motivational. So we chose ours to be $75 because we found that, or not we found, it's just math, that in order for somebody to hit that, they have to buy 3 shirts. So that's like the sweet spot that we found, is whatever the amount is, the lowest amount that somebody would have to spend in order to hit 3 shirts. So like technically if we're selling shirts for $29.99, we could get away with like $65 or $70 free shipping threshold, and it would still require people to buy 3 shirts. Then checkouts converted. So this is your CR. So this is people who clicked add to cart, they got to checkout, and then they got to this page, and for whatever reason, they didn't buy. What could be the reason? So fortunately, on this page, there's very few things we have control over. It's either the payment options, the colors and fonts that we choose here, which we set up in the Shopify section, or the shipping rates. And let's see what they're, wow, that's expensive as crap. Okay, so Wicked Close, their shipping rates, it's 3 to 7 days, $9.95. That might be because they're doing 20% off right now, but anyway, so what are the things that could impact somebody getting to this page and not checking out? It's the payment options, and then the call to action button here not being the same color as the rest of the funnel, and then the shipping rates. So you can experiment with this, but anytime that I've seen we have a big drop off here, which it should be roughly like 70%, 50 to 70% of our reach checkout. So like if we had 10% add to cart and then 7% reach checkout, we should expect to see like a 3.5 to 4% conversion rate. Like it should be pretty much neck and neck. So if we're seeing like it goes from 7 to 1 or 2%, then that's an immediate red flag that there's something here that we need to change. 9 times out of 10, that thing that I found on somebody's site is something's messed up with their shipping methods, and they need, like, either they're charging too much or it's not available. And then I hear some version of, well, I use like the Printify settings, or I followed like the setup in the course. Like, it doesn't matter. You just need to be catching that. It's on you to be catching stuff like this. So that's why I'm saying obsess over this. That's how you're going to learn. It's how you're going to catch stuff like this. And when you're obsessing over it, you should be doing test orders on your site as well. Like, check out all the way through the full process on your phone, and then see what you're noticing as you go through. And something interesting I noticed on Wicked Close is that they're quick add. So they use the black call to action button here, but then they use yellow here, which no other site does that. Busted Tees uses the same green all the way through. Yeah, green. Into the AM, I guarantee, uses the same. Come on. That was a really slow load speed. So yeah, use the same color all the way through. And that's a subtle one that a lot of people miss, because you adjust this color, or this checkout button's color, in a separate place than the rest of the online store. Because, fun fact, the checkout page on any store is hosted separately, because that's where like, people are entering their credit card information. So it has to be done like a more secure setting. That's why if you ever on a website and then you go to checkout, it always looks like slightly off. A lot of times it looks similar nowadays. Like, sites have gotten better at this, but in the past especially, it looks slightly off. It's because they're switching to a separate page that's more secure and normally built on like older tech. So make sure your shipping rates are set up properly. Common error is importing Printify shipping rates. So the rates that we use are $0 to $75 order value is $4.99. We experimented with adding $1 and doing like weight based. So you can do that as well to squeak out an extra $1 or $2. But roughly 0 to 75 is $4.99. Then 75 plus is free shipping. Make sure guest checkout's enabled. Order summary, which we have. So if they click that button there, they see the summary of their whole order. Center logo and use a smaller size. It's like we have it centered here. You want to make sure that it's smaller so that it doesn't take up a ton of space. Honestly, this one we could even shrink down a little bit. And remember that the checkout page impacts your reach checkout to conversion rate. And again, the optimization calculator helps point out to you which one of these things you need to be working on. But we're just going through the whole list. And the biggest impactor on the checkout page is your shipping rate. Oh, that's in the wrong spot. Oh yeah, these are both in the wrong spot. We already went through those. So yeah, improving the checkout rate, there's really not too many things here that we're able to play with. A few things you could do is like change the color of this so it's not blue. You can make it black or gray so it blends in a little bit more. I actually think that we saw that on a couple of them. Yeah, like they do black. Let's see what Wicked Close does. Yeah, they do black. And I bet, yeah. So actually all of them, they all do gray or black for all these accent buttons. So that's something interesting that we could apply, because they just don't want them to blend in. Another thing you can notice is, are they using the 1 or 2 step checkout, which looks like they're all using 1 step, which 1 step is when you have them enter all their delivery information, then all their payment information all on the same page, and it's not enter delivery, then hit submit. So that's another thing you can control. Then finally, we have the free or the average order value. Number one thing that we can do here is the free shipping incentives. So this is at the very top here, where we say free shipping on orders $75 plus. I see some people like filling this space with stuff that just doesn't belong there, like flower graphic tees, or just something about the brand in general which is just irrelevant to put there. It might seem like it makes sense when we're first building our store, but not once we start to understand this process of funnel optimization. We're looking at the store end to end as like a full business, like the full journey of the user. And so once you start thinking that way, you realize that it would just be very redundant for somebody to click on an ad that says like flower t-shirt sale and then land on a page, and the very first line that they see here is just restating flower t-shirt sale, and then it says it again in the collection title. So we realize what we want to have here is, like something that like free shipping threshold. Then recommended product section on the product page and frequently bought together section on the product page. Test out removing the dynamic checkout buttons that we were looking at, because what we said that while they're good for conversion rate, sometimes they do hurt average order value. Reorder products on the collection page to show complementary products near each other. So again, we spend a lot of time thinking about the orders of these products, and like I would look at them on mobile for hours and just reorder them and probably overly obsess about them a little bit. Like little things like if somebody's seeing a graphic shirt here, then a flower shirt here, do I want them to see another flower shirt here? Or would it be better, if these are the top 4 sellers, would it be better for them to see graphic flower shirt here and then diagonal across another graphic one there? Because people's eyes tend to go like this when they're browsing. And they tend to err on the side of scanning down the left side more than the right. So any ones that you think are really top sellers, I tend to put them on the left side rather than on the right. And again, that's just an example or a concept. That's not like an exact prescription saying, every top seller has to be on the left-hand side, but just an example of like back-end thought process or some strategy that you can employ yourself if you so choose. Next, check your shipping profiles to make sure you're not overcharging for 2 to 3 product orders. This is a really sneaky one that I see get a lot of people, that if you're charging, like, say if you import Printify's default shipping profiles, which it goes something like this. It's like one shirt is like $5 shipping, 2 shirts is like $7.30 or somewhere around there. Let's just say it's an extra $2, and then 3 shirts equals $9. If I'm somebody who's adding 2 shirt orders or 2 shirts to my order, and I've seen somewhere it's like 2 plus, it's like $9. What would be the net result of that? So picture you're going to have high add to cart rate. You're going to have high reach checkout rate, or you could, and it wouldn't be impacted by this because people don't find out about this until they get to the checkout page at the very end. But if they get all the way there and then say they have 3 products in their cart they really like, that's going to lead, and they get smacked with $9 shipping, kind of like we just saw in Wicked Close, that's going to lead to them abandoning cart. But you're going to get people with 1 shirt converting. So while you're going to have a lower conversion rate for 2 and 3 shirt orders, the reason that this is particularly confusing is that you'll have a super low average order value. And it'll be tough to get it up because anybody who's got 2 or 3 shirts in their cart is going to be getting there, then abandoning. So you're explicitly losing the highest cart value customers. So that's a really important one to be aware of, because that impacts not only conversion rate, but also your average order value. Then next, you can offer quantity discounts or price breaks. I'm not really a big fan of this one for apparel stores, but it's an offer that like History Tees has been doing for a while since we sold it, where they're doing like buy 2 shirts, get 1 50% off, or like buy 3, get 1 free, that sort of thing. Then you can offer upsells and bundles. So suggest related products, like pair this tee with our matching tote bag. Obviously, we don't have other product types in the beginning, but we see a lot of good examples of these, like in Busted Tees. They do this with sticker packs, but how they recommend, frequently bought together. And if I click add to cart, that's interesting. They just showed the design there. Wow, that was quite the process. It was like 3 pop-ups. But point being, they are upselling recommended products. Another interesting thing is that you see how they have some sizes that are out of stock. I mean, you can tell that they are pre-printing these. and that as they're like they pre-printed them and they're running out of stock on them. If this was all print on demand, then these would obviously all be in stock. Unless if they actually ran out of the base unit, which might be the case. Oh no, this one has large. But yeah, so there you go. So we just went through the entire conversion rate optimization checklist, starting with cost per link click, then average order value, or then conversion rate, then average order value. So by this point, you should have a high level understanding of the why and the how behind, the ROAS formula, like where to place our focus, why we're doing it there, like why we're placing our focus in each section because of how it impacts the overall formula. And now you know what we're able to do to improve each of these and the levers that we can play with to help increase or decrease cost, increase performance or decrease cost. And most important thing out of all of this is that these are high level recommendations. These are things that I've learned and the biggest mistakes that I've seen slow down people's growth. We explain it in a lot of repetitive detail because this concept, more than a lot of others, just comes down to hearing things a lot of times. But final two things to take away is that one, you're going to learn way more from coming up with your own ideas and testing. And two, look at the competition. I'm always doing it to this day. And as you can see, I have recommendations written down here based on my own experience. But then when I'm looking at the other stores, I have an open mind. And I know that they are, pumping 8 figures in revenue through each one of these sites, opposed to our store that's doing $1 million in revenue. I mean, I've done 25 million over the past years, but in present day, like they are putting a lot more focus and effort into optimizing their store than I am. So it would be stupid of me to be big-headed looking at them saying, I know something that they don't. So never stop being a student, because the day you stop doing that and the day you start letting your ego get in the way is the day that you shoot yourself in the foot and you do the opposite of optimizing your funnel. Like your ego has no part to play in optimizing your funnel. It's like the most humbling and repetitive task that you'll do in this entire business. Maybe second only to design generation, but ego can't have any part in it. It just objectively use the calculator, learn the ins and outs of the ROAS formula, and start to quiz yourself on it. Like, how does each metric interact with the other one? And a good gauge of if you're understanding the concept is that you should be able to see just 3 numbers from anybody's store. You should be able to see their cost per click, their conversion rate, their average order value. And if somebody tells you that their cost per click is 55 cents, their conversion rate is 3.7%, and their AOV is $32, you should be able to immediately look at that. And then if you know some semblance of the amount of traffic, like if that's off of one purchase, that's obviously very different than somebody who has 100. But assuming we have statistical significance, so they have say 10 to 15 purchases at least, and they're getting 55 cent cost per clicks, 3.7% conversion rate, you should be able to know right off the bat that AOV is the thing that they need to improve. And then, what are some things they can do to improve AOV? And the thing that we didn't really mention, actually, I'm glad I brought that up, so that you just end up talking yourself after recording for this many hours. Like, I'm so glad you asked. Nobody asked. It was just me. But one thing that I didn't mention is that the biggest impactor on AOV is if people are clicking on a product and then seeing other products that they would also like, which sounds kind of, implied, but it bears repeating that if you, like when we launched History Tees and we had Lincoln 5-star and it was surrounded by like blueprint art and graphics and like just unrelated designs, at least designs that weren't of that same vein, the AOV was terrible because people were coming, buying that one shirt, then they were leaving. So the biggest way that we had all this stuff, we had free shipping incentives, all that stuff right off the bat because we had learned it from previous stores. But the time that the AOV skyrocketed was when we added, I'm totally blanking on some of the shirts, but like other designs, like the Socrates, Where's My Coat, Pickett's Charge, like all of those designs that were all similar, like style, concepts, humor, sarcasm. Once those were added, then AOV skyrocketed because people that are funny, sarcastic history buffs landed on the site and found something that, resonated with them. Opposed to before, they were seeing that one shirt and then they were seeing like blueprint art of a Sherman tank going, that's cool, but it's not really what I would wear. So they would buy the one shirt and then they would leave. So AOV, the biggest way to improve that and the cost per link click is just testing more designs. And so we just went through 200 points. I don't want this to be 200 distractions from the most important thing, which is, and always will be, just testing more better designs. And so, but back to that example, you should be able to look at somebody's 3 high-level metrics and know immediately where should their focus be placed, what are the steps that they can take, what are some tests they can run, what are the most important levers within this 200-step checklist that they should be starting with, and what should they prioritize based on the amount of effort and like investment that it takes in order to get it up or like test it out. And then once they've made those changes, how they can track it and make sure that it actually improved it, opposed to, send them backwards, and then rinse and repeat that process. And then rather than that being somebody else's metrics, you should be able to do it with yours. Way more importantly, but it's so much easier picturing it being giving feedback to somebody else. And so if you're ever having trouble optimizing your own funnel and you feel like you're hitting a brick wall, just pretend like this was somebody else's store, somebody in the community, and they're seeing these metrics. What would I recommend to them? And by the way, it's also a great way to exercise these skills is to, when you see questions that people have in the community, if they're asking a question about like how can they improve their conversion rate, help guide them through the process and help coach them on, one, is conversion rate what we really need to be focusing on? Like get all the information. That's what I do first. If somebody's asking a question, I make sure that we're not going down the wrong rabbit hole. I'm not answering a question to something that they don't even need to be improving. I make sure that we're like treating the overall system, not just the symptom, but help them guide through that process of like, one, are we asking the right question? I.e., looking in the right area, like are we in cost per click or conversion rate or average order values, and that where we really should be? 2, do we have enough data? Like, are we talking about $10 spent on ads? Are we talking about 100 or 300? And then also, do we have the right data? Like, are we judging our conversion rate based off of something that Facebook is telling us? Which for Facebook, we only look at the purchases. We don't really regard what it says for add to carts or initiate checkouts because it's not accurate. So are we looking in Shopify for the right pieces? And this is mapped out on the calculator, but these are questions to ask. Are we asking the right question, like looking in the right area? Do we have enough data? Do we have the right data? And then third, is the thing they are asking about really the best way to improve their main constraint? Like if they are asking about how do I improve my conversion rate, and you go, okay, we are in the right area, we have enough data, they're looking at the right data. Now, if they're asking about how do I add Klarna to increase or how do I update, I don't know, like the colors on my checkout page to increase my conversion rate. And then you look at their stats and you see that their add to cart rate is 4%. I should just use the calculator for this, but reach checkout is 1%, and sessions converted is 1%. And this person might be asking about how do I update the colors on this checkout page? Like how do I update this to be gray? And if you were to answer that question, you would help them increase their sessions converted, which sessions converted is already as high as